My beloved child. There is something you have never been told. There is a promise that was spoken behind closed doors. It was not written on paper. It was not announced in front of a crowd. Yet those words carried more weight than anyone expected. Someone looked into the eyes of other people and made a decision that involved your name. They believed you would never discover it. They believed time would hide every detail. But time has a strange way of uncovering what silence tries to protect. Before this message reaches its end, you will understand why certain doors suddenly closed. Why certain faces changed without explanation. Why certain conversations stopped the moment you arrived. None of those moments were random. Every strange feeling you ignored was quietly connected to one promise. The surprising part is that the promise was never truly about hurting you. It was about controlling what others believed about you. They wanted everyone to think the story had already been decided. They wanted people to believe that your future had already been written. But something happened that they never expected. The truth refused to stay hidden. Small signs began appearing one after another. Tiny moments that seemed meaningless started forming one complete picture. That picture is now impossible to ignore. As each missing piece falls into place, you will realize why your journey suddenly became different. You were never walking through ordinary days. You were walking through a chapter that was preparing you for a revelation almost nobody sees coming. Stay with this message carefully. The next truth changes everything you thought you understood. Something unusual began long before you noticed it. People around you started acting as though they already knew the ending of your story. Some smiled without giving a reason. Others became strangely distant. A few watched your every move while pretending not to notice you at all. You may have wondered why. You may have blamed yourself. But the answer was never inside your mistakes. It was hidden inside the promise they made to others. They promised they were not going to let your light become visible. They promised they would keep your abilities unnoticed. They promised they would never allow certain opportunities to reach your hands. They believed that if enough people accepted this idea, your path would quietly disappear. Yet promises built on fear never remain strong forever. Every day that passed created tiny cracks in that invisible wall. Every challenge you survived became another crack. Every moment you refused to give up became another crack. The wall looked powerful from the outside, but inside it was already falling apart. They could not hear it. They could not see it. But the collapse had already begun. The remarkable truth is this. While they were busy protecting their promise, life was preparing something greater than any promise they could ever make. That is why certain delays happened. That is why unexpected changes entered your life. None of them were accidents. They were quiet preparations for the moment everything would begin shifting in your favor. Listen closely now. There is another layer hidden beneath everything you have heard so far. The promise was repeated many times because they feared one specific possibility. They feared that one day people would finally see your true value without anyone explaining it. They understood something that even you sometimes forgot. Real character cannot remain hidden forever. Genuine strength eventually becomes impossible to ignore. Every challenge you overcame silently added another chapter to your story. Every disappointment quietly shaped your confidence. Every lonely moment taught you lessons that comfort never could. While others believed they were limiting your future was quietly growing beyond their imagination. That is why certain people suddenly became nervous whenever your name appeared in conversations. That is why unexpected opportunities began showing up from places you never expected. They felt the change before they could explain it. They sensed that the promise they once made was slowly losing its influence. Imagine standing before a locked door for years, believing someone else owned the key, only to discover the lock had already opened long ago. That is exactly where this story begins to change. The door was never waiting for their permission. It was waiting for the right moment. And the closer that moment comes, the harder it becomes for anyone to stop what is already unfolding. Here is the surprising part almost nobody expects. The people who once believed the promise would last forever have quietly started questioning it themselves. They have noticed things they cannot explain. They have watched situations unfold differently than they predicted. They expected you to disappear into the background. Instead, your presence became stronger. They expected your confidence to fade. Instead, your resilience became more visible. They expected your influence to become smaller. Instead, it quietly expanded without seeking attention. This unexpected shift has created silent conversations you have never heard. Some now wonder whether they misunderstood you from the beginning. Others wonder if the promise should never have been made at all. The certainty they once carried has slowly turned into doubt. Doubt has turned into curiosity. Curiosity has turned into quiet respect. That transformation is happening even when nobody speaks about it openly. The most fascinating part is that this change did not happen because you argued with anyone. It happened because consistency speaks louder than explanation. Every calm step you took became stronger than every opinion spoken against you. Every patient decision became stronger than every assumption made about your future. This is the moment when silent truth begins replacing loud certainty. Few people recognize it while it happens. But once it begins, nothing returns to the way it was before. Now the story reaches a turning point. What they promised other people is no longer the most important part of this journey. What matters now is what they can no longer control. They cannot control what people eventually discover with their own eyes. They cannot control the quiet respect that grows naturally over time. They cannot control the opportunities that appear when preparation finally meets the right season. Most importantly, they cannot control the truth once it begins revealing itself piece by piece. The promise that once looked unbreakable has become a shadow of what it used to be. Every passing day weakens it further. Every new experience strengthens you instead. There is still one final detail hidden beneath everything you have heard today. It is the detail that explains why certain people have suddenly started watching you more carefully than ever before. They are beginning to realize something extraordinary. The story they tried to define is no longer following the path they expected. Something completely different is unfolding. And when the next piece is revealed, you will finally understand why their greatest confidence is quietly turning into their greatest surprise. A quiet shift has already begun, and almost nobody recognizes it while it is happening. The same people who once believed their promise would shape your future are now witnessing small moments that refuse to follow their expectations. At first, they ignored those moments. Then they questioned them. Now they cannot stop thinking about them. Every unexpected success you experience becomes another reminder that something has changed. Every new connection that enters your life becomes another sign that the story is moving in a completely different direction. They never imagined that the very people they once convinced would slowly begin forming their own opinions. Truth has a remarkable habit. It does not rush. It does not shout. It simply continues appearing until nobody can deny it anymore. That is exactly what is happening now. The foundation of their promise is becoming weaker with every passing day. The surprising part is that they can feel it, even if they cannot explain it. There is an invisible difference between confidence and certainty. Once certainty begins to disappear, every decision starts feeling uncertain. That silent uncertainty is now following them wherever they go. There is another secret hidden beneath everything you have seen. When they made that promise, they believed they understood your entire story. They thought they had already measured your limits. They believed they knew how far you could go. But they never understood one simple truth. Human potential cannot be measured by someone's opinion. The strongest chapters often begin after the hardest seasons. While they were watching your temporary struggles, they completely missed your quiet growth. Every challenge strengthened your patience. Every delay sharpened your wisdom. Every disappointment taught you something that success alone never could. They only noticed the storms. They never noticed the strength those storms were building inside you. Now those hidden lessons are beginning to appear in ways nobody predicted. Suddenly, people are noticing qualities they overlooked before. They are seeing confidence where they once expected hesitation. They are seeing calmness where they expected frustration. They are seeing steady progress where they expected silence. None of this happened overnight. It was growing quietly while everyone else was looking somewhere else. What makes this moment even more extraordinary is that some of the very people who once accepted that promise have started asking questions. They are revisiting old conversations. They are remembering details they ignored before. They are connecting moments that once seemed unrelated. Slowly, a completely different picture is forming in their minds. They are beginning to understand that reality never matched the story they were told. That realization is powerful because once someone discovers truth on their own, it becomes almost impossible to convince them otherwise. This is why the atmosphere around you feels different, even if nobody says anything openly. There is a silent change taking place behind ordinary conversations. Respect is replacing assumptions. Curiosity is replacing judgment. Confidence is replacing doubt. The remarkable thing is that you do not need to announce this transformation. It is happening naturally. The more authentic you remain, the more obvious the difference becomes. That is why the next chapter will surprise even those who believed they already knew everything about you. Yet the biggest revelation has not arrived. There was one part of that promise they never shared with anyone outside their circle. Deep inside, they feared one possibility more than anything else. They feared that one unexpected moment could erase years of carefully built assumptions. They knew that if even one person truly recognized your value, everything could begin changing. They tried to prevent that moment. They delayed it whenever possible. They ignored the signs whenever they appeared. But some moments cannot be postponed forever. The season they tried to avoid has quietly arrived. New doors are beginning to open without warning. Unexpected conversations are creating fresh opportunities. People who never noticed you before are beginning to pay attention for reasons even they cannot fully explain. It may look ordinary from the outside, but beneath the surface something extraordinary is taking shape. Every step is leading toward a moment that will connect everything you have experienced until now. Now another question appears, and it is the one nobody expected. What happens when the people who made that promise finally realize they cannot stop what is already unfolding? That answer is closer than you think. Their confidence is slowly turning into hesitation because they are witnessing something beyond their expectations. The future they once imagined for you is disappearing, replaced by one they never prepared for. Every passing day brings another unexpected development. Every quiet victory changes the story a little more. And hidden within the next revelation is the one truth they hoped would remain unseen forever. When that truth finally comes into the light, every promise they once made about you will lose the power it seemed to hold. The moment is approaching faster than anyone realizes. The next chapter reveals why even those who stood against your story are beginning to wonder if they were witnessing the beginning of something remarkable all along. Everything changes from this point because the promise was never the final chapter. It was only the beginning of a much greater story that nobody around you could predict. The people who once believed they had complete control are now facing something they cannot explain. Every plan they carefully imagined is slowly becoming less certain. Every expectation they confidently repeated is quietly falling apart. They are watching events unfold in ways that no conversation could have prepared them for. What surprises them most is not your progress. It is your consistency. They expected temporary moments of success followed by disappointment. Instead, they are seeing steady growth that refuses to disappear. That quiet consistency is becoming stronger than every opinion they once shared. The more they observe, the more they realize that the promise they made no longer carries the influence it once did. A different story is beginning to write itself, and this time they are no longer the ones holding the pen. Another remarkable truth has remained hidden until now. Long before anyone made promises about your future, your character was already shaping a path they could not see. Character grows in silence. Wisdom develops through experience. Confidence is built one small decision at a time. While others focused on appearances, your unseen preparation continued every single day. That preparation is now producing results that seem unexpected to everyone except those who understand how growth truly works. Suddenly, people are noticing the calm way you handle challenges. They are noticing the patience you have developed. They are noticing that you no longer react to every opinion surrounding you. This quiet transformation is creating an entirely new impression. Those who once underestimated you are beginning to question their own assumptions. They cannot understand how someone they thought they had already defined continues revealing new strengths. The answer is simple. Growth never asks for permission before it appears. It arrives quietly until one day it becomes impossible to ignore. There is still one hidden detail that almost nobody has discovered. The promise they made to others has started affecting them more than it ever affected you. Every day they try to defend the story they created becomes more difficult. Every new fact challenges their old beliefs. Every positive change they witness forces them to reconsider what they once accepted without question. This silent struggle is happening entirely within their own minds. They may never speak about it openly, but it is there. They are beginning to understand that truth has a quiet strength that cannot be replaced by assumptions. Once people begin seeing reality for themselves, no promise can keep them from forming their own conclusions. That realization is spreading slowly, one conversation at a time, one observation at a time, one unexpected moment at a time. What once seemed permanent is now becoming temporary. What once looked impossible is now becoming increasingly likely. The most surprising part is still waiting ahead. Someone who has remained silent for a very long time is beginning to notice everything. This person has watched events unfold without rushing to judgment. They have listened more than they have spoken. They have observed details that everyone else overlooked. They are now connecting every missing piece together. When they finally understand the complete picture, their perspective will influence others in ways nobody expects. This single shift will create conversations that could never have happened before. It will not happen through arguments. It will not happen through loud announcements. It will happen because genuine truth has a way of reaching people naturally. The closer that moment comes, the more obvious it becomes that the old promise has reached its limit. Something completely new is about to begin. And the next chapter reveals the one discovery that changes the entire story forever.